Hey everyone, welcome back to another Anime Kingdom reviews. You can see by the title below. This is on episode 12, the final and last episode of Koutetsujou no Kabaneri. And how do I feel about this episode? It was a decent ending from, what I expected. I expected a little bit more for the action part, to be honest. The ending at least ended happily, right? I guess we can, I expected kind of for a moment that it would be a sad ending in a way, to which ends up being a nice little happy ending. Is there a possibility of another season? Yes. Do I want another season? I don't know. It depends on how many episodes they end up wanting to put in it. 12 episodes is way too little bit. The way this anime went is it started off really good, and towards the end it started to get really rushed, just like this finale and just like the last couple episodes before it. The finale, we get to see some crazy fighting with Kurusu and Ikoma kind of going in there fighting a bunch of the Kabane. But that's pretty much it. We don't really get that much of some insane battles. I kind of expected Ikoma to be a total badass, and even though yes, he was taking out Kabane, he was taking out the other guys. He even stopped a damn train. It wasn't as awesome as I thought because, well, for one thing, the reasoning is that he was weakening. He was, starting to change into a Kabane because of the black, serum or whatever it was. Because of that, he was losing his senses. He was starting to not be able to hear as good. He was starting to lose his sight. And of course, towards the end of the battle with Biba, he loses his sight completely, in which it makes the fight kind of to be honest. Like, the fight started off pretty cool, them clashing and everything. I expected a little bit more from what we've seen already, and it kind of was a little disappointing. It was more of, he ends up looking like he's going to kick his ass. He ends up turning blind at the last moment. Biba tries to come in from behind, and we get one of those moments where the main character is saved by someone else. Like, also you saw it was Mumi, to which she said, she dropped the thingy and boop, and he just stabs and the arm gets taken out. And the music, the soundtrack in this episode made it sound a lot better in these certain fights and circumstances along the way. But it was still, I expected a little bit more, to be honest, from what we saw, like the build up to it with him looking so badass. I was expecting some crazy action from him. Maybe even having to fight Mume, to which her thing just drops down, and then we get to fight with him and Biba. Like I said, it was an I still do not get Biba. He, throughout this episode, irritates me with his, humanity's greatest weakness is cowardice, and that's why all this is happening, and all that bullcrap. It's him being, like, he's like a kid that never got what he wanted, and now he's throwing a tantrum, and the tantrum ends up killing a whole bunch of people. But that's pretty much it. There's no greater goal that he has, that he sees a vision of something like, this is, people will be stronger because of this. No, he's doing this because everyone is, the weak just gotta die, pretty much. That's just it. Cowardice is, humanity's weakness, and cowardice creates war and all this kind of stuff. So in a way, he's kind of contradicting himself in saying cowardice creates war, which means he's a coward and he's starting this war. And he even has that one moment when he talks of, he's fighting Ikoma and saying, oh, so you found a coward. So I'm guessing he's talking about Mumi finding him, but he's also a coward himself. Maybe he sees a little bit of himself in Ikoma or something. I don't know. It confuses me on why even at the end he ends up saving Ikoma. He cures him. And that could, like, if we had more time, more episodes, the description, his development, seeing more of the stuff with, Biba, would have maybe made that part make more sense. But in the end, it's just like Mumi's like, Oni-chan saves him. Oh my gosh. And I'm just like, wait, what? So yeah, it was kind of obvious. It was an obvious, like, at the ending I thought it was going to be bad, but throughout this episode, everything became obvious. It came kind of predict all the stuff that would happen. You see the white serum being given to Biba, and you kind of already knew they only have one. He has to either cure, you know, what's it called? Ikoma's got to cure Mumi. So how is he gonna be cured if there's gonna be a happy ending? To which, of course, it ends up being they both are safe, they're both fine, and everyone leaves. And they even have the part where there's some of what's it called, Biba's guys end up going with them, and there's all that thing with like, oh yeah, they're hurting too, they're not trying to help, they're, you know, after doing all that, you're just gonna let them on the train. I mean, I kind of like, at least they, you know, you wouldn't have known about Kurusu and Ikoma and Mumi, but what the hell, man? Those guys killed so many people. You cannot forgive them that fast. But I mean, it's kind of just like we gotta let them on board. If they, you know, really wanted to, they could have killed us. So I kind of get the proposition from that point of view. It just didn't make sense on why those guys wouldn't just go in and kill them. That part kind of blows my mind, and I don't really understand that. So the episode ended up being just all over the place in certain things, like why did this happen, why did this happen, and that's mostly because everything was rushed. These last few episodes, to me, have felt like, oh my gosh, we're hitting the episode, you know, where episode 12, where it's gonna end everything. So we gotta start doing this and that and that, and the ending ends up at least being a happy ending. That part I can go by at least. If anyone shipping Ikoma and Mumi, I guess you kind of got that in this episode. For a while at the end, I was like, did that cure her? To which, of course, if you didn't know, no, that did not cure her. That just took away, you know, she's no longer that crazy monster colony thing. That's why, obviously, at the end, she was kicking ass still yet fighting all those guys. It was kind of cute to see her, too, with Ikoma's kind of cloak thing as well. So that was nice to see. And in the end, everyone is happy. Everyone is now safe. They're off on a journey with the sun rising and everything like that. So like, ooh, you know, everything's good, kind of. I mean, a lot of people ended up dying there, but yeah, the immediate threat is over, and people of the Koutetsujou are now off to go. Who knows where? I don't know. It's a possibility that there can be a season 2, but like I said, they need to. I feel like it needs to be 24 episodes. It literally does need to be 24 episodes. Now let's talk about how I feel about the season overall. The season overall, literally, this anime was probably one of my favorite animes of the season when it first started. Like halfway through, it was still just really awesome. Like everything that was going on, the whole thing about, you know, finding a new type of zombie. Like, oh, this thing can fight, kind of thing. This thing can, you know, like yeah. The characters were growing. We're getting more development of. Ikoma was starting to be more likable. Mumi was starting to trust everyone and change the ways of how she, you know, was before with, you know, obviously we see later on with Biba telling her the weak, you know, have to die and all that kind of stuff. And even, you know, Kurusu and everyone else were growing more and more, and I was liking that. And if we had a 24 episode season, I feel like we would have got to see more of that character development, more of growing attachments for these certain people, more of seeing them grow, and then, you know, seeing like everything pan out better in the end. The execution would have been better in the end, I feel. Even with Biba, even though I still don't like the way his reasoning for everything, for, you know, doing all this, maybe we would have got it more if we had more episodes to develop his character more, to show more about what happened to him in the past, instead of they just showed a little bit here and there, but they didn't really dive into it. We don't even know why the father did all of that, just accept cowardice and all this kind of stuff, you know. If they could have delved, if they had more episodes, we could have delved more into that and a whole bunch of other things with everyone, that I feel it would have been so much better. But instead, it got to a certain point when Biba came in, and they started to rush through things, because obviously all this stuff had to happen. Biba ended up being we don't really see much development in his character or learn more about him. All we get to see is him being a total, you know, ass, and doing all this kind of, like, the weak has to die, and, you know, doing all this kind of stuff. Mumi, you know, reverting back to this point where she's like, she'll listen to everything he says and is completely oblivious to what's going on, it seemed like, letting people into the place and all that kind of stuff. Then we have moments where Ikoma as well, he was growing, you see more and more and stronger, and then it's like all of a sudden we have this point where he's just like, I can't do it, I can't do any of this, and that would have been fine for certain parts if they grew more and we had more episodes to see him go through these pains and everything. But instead, it was just like this one part, and all of a sudden, you know what? I gotta be a man now, all out of nowhere. And I was just like, oh, okay, I guess. I see. Yeah, and maybe even the deaths would have been even like more like Takumi. Was that his name? The fact I honestly forget now what his name was. When he died, honestly, it's because I didn't really feel much of a connection. We didn't really get attached to him because yeah, we know he was best friends with Ikoma. We know he saved his life and all this kind of stuff going on here, but we didn't really see much of development with him. It was mostly the character development that we saw in this anime was literally Mumi and Ikoma, and like I said, all of that kind of just went down the drain, and like literally I was just like okay, so there's that. And even towards the end, like some of the things that they do just doesn't make sense. The king or emperor or whatever his name is, whatever he was in charge of everything, was like, don't let them in. Oh, they're captured? Let them in. Even then he was like, I know you have a scheme. You knew he has a scheme. Why you let him in? And then all the stuff go bad. Everyone's stupid, and it's just like, oh my gosh, what the hell, man? I honestly really don't understand that, But yeah, overall, the anime was still pretty, like, I still enjoyed it. The first half to like a certain episode was still really good. After Biba came in, then it started to go downhill. The ending episode could have done way better, but at least we get a nice happy ending, I guess, if you want to think about it like that. But overall, that's really all I gotta say. So my overall review of this anime, this whole season overall, would probably be a 7.5. If it, it could have been so much higher, like maybe an 8 or higher, maybe 8.5 or something, if the execution was done better, if we had more episodes for more development and all that kind of stuff. But instead, we didn't get that, and everything just really just went down the hill after Biba came in my opinion. But at least we get a happy ending, I guess, in a way. But that's pretty much the only like sugarcoating kind of thing I can actually say. The only good thing I can say about the second half of the anime. But yeah, it's really all I gotta say, guys. Overall, anime was still good. I would still recommend it to people. If there was a second season, maybe I would still, no, not maybe. I would still watch it. Hopefully they learn their mistakes and they would, put more episodes into it and not rush towards the end and, continue to do what they were doing in the beginning of the season. Then, okay, I would definitely enjoy it and I'll definitely watch it. I'll still watch it either way if there's a second season. But from the looks of it, it doesn't look like it's going to be a second season. At least we get a happy ending to kind of just give us some closure. So, yeah. Hey, that's pretty much all I got to say, guys. So, hope you guys enjoyed this Anime Kingdom review. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. If there's anything I'm missing you want to talk about, comment below as well. And until next time, guys. See ya.